What if Deku and a female Todoroki were a couple? In this what if story, we explore their dynamic, chemistry, and how their love could change everything. Stay tuned for an exciting journey. A house with a Japanese style, a house that has many memories, memories that are captured on its walls. The white walls had black stains on them, stains that suggested that fire attacks had collided there. Get up. Don't give up, brat, was the shout of a tall man with a red beard. And no, I can't dad, I can't go on anymore, were the words of a girl who was lying on the ground. Get up, that's an order. The man had a furrowed brow with an indifferent look. But dad, I can't go on anymore. The girl continued panting from exhaustion, she wanted to faint but the man would grab her by the hair and pull her through all the hallways until they reached a room. Dad, my hair hurts. Please stop. The girl's screams were loud, the tug of war ended in a room that had a bathroom theme. With this you will be awake, was what the man said before throwing his daughter into a bathtub. The bathtub was big, the girl was desperate to get out of the water but she didn't know how to swim. The facade said Todoroki family, something that for many people there that house was hell. The reason was that screams were heard all the time during the week. At that moment, two people came out of the house, one was an old man and the other was a girl. The girl had two-tone hair, which was striking. Don't run Shuka, she could hurt you, was the shout of the old man who was watching the little girl run. Hurry up, Grandpa, you're too slow, Shuka shouted as she saw her grandfather in the distance. Shuka turned to look at the road, tripped and fell, scraping his knee. My knee. It hurts, she said, looking at the wound. Are you okay? Shuka looked up and saw a hand next to a green-haired boy. That boy was accompanied by his mother who had a purse. Oh, look how you hurt your knee, little one, don't worry, I'll help you, was what the green-haired lady said. The lady was very kind to Shuka, so much so that she gave him a lollipop for letting her bandages scrape. Shuka's grandfather had arrived and with a friendly chat, he said goodbye to the woman along with his little son. Do you know them, Grandpa? Shuka asked. No, but the lady is a good person, was what the grandfather said as he looked in the direction they were going. One day, Shuka left home to go to the park again where he grabbed the green-haired boy's hand. She searched and searched, but in the end she didn't find him, she did the same thing the other days. One of those days, Shuka met Izuku, where without thinking she approached him and thanked him. Hi. I wanted to thank you for helping me that day, Shuka would say somewhat uneasy. Don't worry, it was my mom who helped you, not me, this guy would say, holding a doll in his hand. Thanks to that little conversation, the two became friends where without knowing, in the future things would be different. A few days later, Shuka ran away from home because she was excited to see Izuku again. It was the first time she had a friend since her father wouldn't let her because he thought it interfered with her training. Midoriya. It was Shuka's scream as he ran to where the freckled boy was. Todoroki. Izuku also shouted with joy where he would run to hug the aforementioned. Let's play, I want to show you some of my dolls, said Izuku, who had an All Might figure in his hand. Gigi, when not you with your toys, let's go, she said to grab Izuku's hand and go to the games. Mom, I can't stand it anymore, every day that passes and with his short hair, Shuka looks more like his father, I don't think I can resist much longer, were the pleas of Rei, who spoke nervously on the phone. Daughter, is there no one with you? It was a female voice over the call. But Rei couldn't hear her mother because she heard a noise behind her, where she decided to turn around. Only to find Shuka. Mommy? The little girl asked, somewhat scared. Rei didn't say anything, she just watched her daughter while her face formed a scared one. His eyes were open and staring at the girl, where in an act of madness. Rei grabbed the kettle and threw the boiling water in Shuka's face. The days passed and Shuka didn't want to leave the house, she didn't want Izuku to see her like that and with that ugly mark. Just thinking about her first friend's reaction brought tears of fear to her eyes. At that the door would open revealing Shuka's grandfather. Baby, what's wrong? You have to go out, your little friend is waiting for you out there to play. No Grandpa, if he sees me with this ugly mark, I'm sure he'll run away in fear. I'm a monster, sniff crying Shuka would cling to his grandfather. Her grandfather could only continue to support Shuka, where the poor girl did not want to go out for fear of rejection from her first friend. Izuku went to Shuka's house, he hid until Shuka's dad left so he could go to his house. He would knock and receive no response, and if he insisted the door would open and someone would come out. Grandpa, pizza, Shuka shouted as she opened the door. But the two of them stared at each other, Shuka was scared when she saw Izuku. She no longer had her bandage on, her wound could be seen, she would only cover half of her face and prepare to run. But Izuku's hand didn't let go. "Let me go, Midoriya," she said, trying to get away. "No, Todoroki, why don't you want to play with me? Do you not want to be friends anymore?" At that question, Shuka stood still. She didn't want Izuku to see her like that, but upon hearing his question her body paralyzed and her expression changed to one of fear. "And no, it's just that. I don't feel well," she said with total apathy. "Your grandfather says you have a wound, is it true?" Izuku asked, confused. "Yes, it's an ugly mark, I don't want you to see me like this, I'm a monster," Shuka said, holding back the urge to run. Izuku was motionless and Shuka wanted to run, but to remove his doubts, Shuka turned to look at Izuku, revealing his wound. Izuku was scared by the red mark Shuka had on his face. He wanted to run scared, but when he saw Shuka's face, he just stopped and thought about himself. When he was being made fun of for not having a quirk, he thought about how Shuka felt. "You look pretty like this," was what Izuku said. Shuka was shocked and looked up. That was all Shuka said. "You look good, you look pretty like that, that mark is nothing bad and you are not a monster, you are my friend and I will always be there to support you." With a smile Izuku would look at Shuka. Where the aforementioned only continued to look at the green-haired man in disbelief, her tears came out without thinking about it. Her arms were already around the green-haired boy. Thank you, Midoriya." Crying on the green-haired boy's small chest, Shuka clung to him. Where everything was seen by his grandfather. Izuku and Shuka were already good friends, they had solved Shuka's problem. They thought that their moment of happiness with each other would never end, but there was a problem. Enji found out about everything and imposed a serious sanction on Shuka, a sanction that would send her to study abroad. Shuka found out about this, her anger grew and she faced her father, where she would end up losing and being beaten. "Midoriya. I have to go," Shuka said sadly. "Ah, yes, me too. See you tomorrow, Todoroki." "Why, you don't understand, I won't come back, Midoriya. I'll go far away," she said, crying. Far away? I don't understand." Impressed, Izuku could only turn to look at the bicolor. "My father found out about our friendship and he doesn't want me to be friends with someone who doesn't have a quirk. I don't want that, but I can't question it. Midoriya, I won't see you again." Shuka was crying as he looked at his friend. Izuku was in shock, his only friend was going to leave and maybe she wouldn't come back, so he just went and hugged Shuka. "Promise me that you will come back, Todoroki, please," Izuku said, crying. "I promise. But you, promise me that you won't forget me, promise me that no matter what happens you will remember me." Izuku nodded at Shuka's words, the two looked at each other and with tears in their eyes they had to say goodbye. Izuku continued with his life. Bakugo always abused him with the entire school. Shuka just looked at everyone indifferently where he was. His father introduced him to Momo Yaoyorozu, a daughter of his friend. Todoroki without much interest just became her friend and continued his life in a boring way. Years later. In one room, a tall girl was fixing herself in the mirror while putting bandages on her fists. At that moment, someone would knock on his door. "Shuka, are you ready?" At that question, the door would open and Momo would enter. Momo would see Shuka and the two would stare at each other, where Momo began to blush. "Ah! Let me know when you're changing," shouted the black-haired girl who was leaving the room. "Don't shout. We're both girls after all, don't feel embarrassed," Shuka said with a disinterested attitude. Momo was blushing behind the door. Shuka was right, but Momo felt different. Shuka left and Momo ran out upon seeing her, missing the bicolor. She would go to the living room and see her father. "You're finally here, Shuka. It's disrespectful to be late when there are guests," was the shout of Enji who saw his daughter. "It's also disrespectful if you shout in front of them, old man," Shuka said in his typical disinterested tone. "Damn brat, anyway, we have to eat so that tomorrow you can go to your first day of classes at UA, you have to prove that you are superior to the rest of your class, do you understand?" was what Enji said. But in response, he received nothing as Shuka was eating. "Ah! Show Shuka, answer your father, don't leave him like that," Momo shouted scared. "Shut up, let me eat," said Shuka while eating his soba. Classes started, Shuka and Momo went together to UA, on the way they saw several students with incredible gifts. Momo was the most surprised, but Shuka didn't care, she hadn't felt that emotion in years. "There are several incredible gifts, right Shuka?" Momo asked happily. "They're just hindrances," she said as she continued walking. Upon entering their classroom, they could see many students, some of whom were happy. "Hello, good morning, my name is Ashido Mina. And why?" "I'm not interested," Shuka said dryly as he walked past her.
I ignore myself," she said sadly.
Shuka went to sit at the back. She saw how little by little the class filled up, she didn't care and went to sleep. The teacher came in and greeted the students, allowing each one to introduce themselves. "Well, everyone is here now, we can eat." Aizawa was interrupted when the door opened. "Ah. Excuse me, I'm late." "I'm sorry, Professor," the newcomer was interrupted by bandages surrounding his body. "Don't shout in my class. Who are you? Introduce yourself to your classmates," Aizawa said, somewhat irritated. "Oh, okay. Hello, nice to meet you, my name is Izuku Midoriya, I hope we get along," said Izuku, giving a smile. Some were happy to have a friendly companion, others didn't think much of it. Shuka, hearing the name of the newcomer, quickly raised his gaze, where he saw Izuku. Several memories flashed through his mind, where his cold and dry expression changed to an impressed one, something that caught Momo's attention. Izuku," she said, looking at the green-haired boy in surprise. Shuka couldn't pay attention to Aizawa's instructions, she kept looking at Izuku, something that Momo only looked at. "Don't worry, he's not going anywhere," said Momo, touching the bicolor's shoulder. "Ah? What are you saying?" Shuka asked, somewhat confused. "You're staring too much at the boy who came in late." Momo would look at Izuku with disgust. "You're wrong, I don't look at anyone," she said as she lay down on her desk. "You look at him like you're eating him up with your eyes, but if you say no, well, I think it's my chance to make friends with him." Momo had gotten up from her seat, she was going to go to the green-haired boy's desk, but she would be stopped. "Don't even think about approaching Yaoyorozu," Shuka said as he grabbed Momo's hand and looked at her with an annoyed look. Momo was nervous, it was the first time she saw Shuka upset, so she had no choice but to go back to her seat. "With this we will go to the field, we will do shooting practice with your quirks," said Aizawa as he left the room. Everyone went after the sensei. Todoroki wanted to get closer to Izuku but he couldn't. An excited Mina quickly approached the green-haired boy and began to ask him several questions. Izuku was nervous about Mina's proximity, but Todoroki frowned at this. "You can come to this circle, the first one to throw will be Katsuki Bakugo." At Aizawa's words, a boy with ashen hair would emerge from the crowd of students. "Extra people. Here I am to prove that I am better than these extras," he said as he approached the teacher. "Here, throw this ball with all your might," said Aizawa, all bored, as he got into a sleeping bag. Bakugo took a breath and started to generate a lot of sweat on his hand. Shouting "shine" in a loud voice, the ball would fly far away. The others were impressed but one was very nervous. That was Izuku, who didn't know how to use his power, something that Shuka noticed well. They all passed but one, something that Aizawa didn't hesitate to call out. "Izuku Midoriya" were Aizawa's words. Izuku froze for a moment but he looked at a window and could see All Might giving him a thumbs up. I can, All Might trusts me," he said in his thoughts as he moved forward. Shuka wanted to stop Izuku, she knew he was a quirkless. But she was perplexed as she watched the ball fly out at great speed. What the fuck?" Shuka asked herself. Bakugo angrily walked out from among the students and grabbed Izuku by the shirt. "Damn nerd, you said." Bakugo couldn't continue talking because his quirk didn't activate and he was wrapped in bandages. "No fuss in my class, you have 760 meters, not bad kid," said Aizawa, who saw a device. "Go back to the living room, I'll be there in a bit," Aizawa said as he left with Bakugo. Shuka wanted to get closer to Izuku, but whenever he had the chance, something or someone would take Izuku away. One time he had the perfect opportunity, but Momo appeared out of nowhere and ruined the moment. Shuka wanted to go to Izuku but he had already left. Something that made her very angry and ended up freezing Momo. The next day, given the directions, "You can come and get your hero costumes," Aizawa would just press a button and several costumes would come out. "I'll wait for you outside." As they left, the students ran to get their costumes. They would come out in their respective outfits, some posing and others showing off their outfits. Izuku was wearing his typical outfit, something that caught the attention of many but Shuka was the most impressed. She would just give a light laugh remembering when Izuku showed her his All Might figures. "How adorable," Shuka said, still looking at Izuku. The battles lasted regularly, each one had their own fighting style and techniques, Shuka's fight was the fastest. Izuku ran nervously through the corridors, as it was the first time he was going to fight. He knew that if he didn't use his gift properly, he could break his limbs. But he ran into Bakugo. Ka-chan, he said nervously when he saw his friend up ahead. Damn nerd, I don't know how the hell you got into UA or how the hell you got a gift out of nowhere, but I'm the best here, said this guy as he got on his knees with his hands on the ground. Why yes, you are the best. Izuku was already nervous, his legs were shaking and all he wanted to do was run. Come on, fight, Izuku, Shuka said in a whisper that could see everything from the waiting room. Momo had heard that and was curious about who Izuku was and why Shuka had noticed him. In the fight, Bakugo had lunged at Izuku but he dodged him and ran away from the place. Are you running away? That's not manly, said Kirishima, who was grabbed by the mouth. Running away? Izuku isn't running away from anything. You better be careful what you say, Shuka said, abruptly letting go of Kirishima. What a character, Kirishima said, clutching his jaw. The fight was getting longer. Izuku was thinking about something until after a few minutes an idea crossed his head. I have it. That's what he said as he ran towards Bakugo. Upon finding it, he could only breathe as he relaxed so as not to be nervous. You finally decided to come out, you damn nerd. Bakugo was very furious, he had a lump on his head due to the miscalculation of his momentum. I'm not going to run away anymore, Ka-chan, no more, he said, determined to face the ashen-haired boy. Bakugo had clicked his tongue at that. Seeing the cameras, he kept his pride afloat and went against the green-haired boy. The explosions and dust didn't let anyone see what was happening. Shuka was worried about what was happening to Izuku. But the dust cleared, watching as Izuku curved Bakugo's punch, to proceed to punch the air. The blow generated a huge blast of air that opened a hole in the building up to the roof, where Uraka was waiting on the top floor to touch the bomb and win. The heroes win. All Might shouted into the microphone. Bakugo was kneeling on the ground, he was afraid of losing against Izuku. Shuka was happy, without knowing it he had given a slight smile, something that made Momo angry. Why are you smiling when you see him? Who are you, Midoriya? Said Momo while seeing Izuku's face through the cameras. Izuku left UA, he was sighing in relief. But someone would stand in his way. Hey nerd, even though you beat me, I'm still better. Did you hear? Bakugo would say while grabbing Izuku by the shirt. Why yes, I know, Ka-chan, he said nervously. Bakugo had thrown Izuku to the ground and was proceeding to leave. Izuku was cleaning his shirt but footsteps would be heard. Are you okay? The voice made Izuku jump slightly. Ah, why yeah, I'm fine, said the man who finished cleaning himself. Come, let me help you, the voice was breathing heavily. Something that seemed strange to Izuku, he looked up and found eyes of different colors. A girl with red and white hair, white skin and a large red mark on her face. Take my hand, Izuku, Shuka said in a somewhat agitated voice. Izuku was able to get up, he only looked at Shuka, of course, he had to look up since Shuka was taller than him. At that, Shuka grabbed Izuku's face with his hands. I hope you were well, Shuka said, smiling with a blush. Izuku just looked at her blushing, but he made a doubtful face because Shuka seemed familiar to him. Thanks. I'm running late, I have to go. A blushing Izuku would run off towards his house. Shuka wanted to stop Izuku, but she just stood there with her hand raised. I grabbed him, I grabbed his face. I grabbed his face. His skin is soft like when we were kids. At least I was able to talk to him, Shuka said while jumping up and down for joy. Momo, who watched everything from a distance, was annoyed by the closeness Shuka had with Izuku. Damn Midoriya. That was the only thing Momo said before proceeding to leave. Why is he looking at me? Was what Izuku was asking himself mentally while he ate nervously. Shuka was at his side, she hadn't stopped looking at him since the beginning of the break. Momo was clenching her cutlery as she watched Shuka's goofy smile. This, Yaoyorozu, you're going to break your cutlery, was Mina's scream when she heard the sound of the cutlery breaking. I can create another one with my gift, don't worry, said Momo, grabbing her tray and going to where Shuka was. I can't eat, I feel quite uncomfortable. Out of nervousness, Izuku grabbed the cutlery wrongly and it flew into Shuka's hand. Damn, Izuku screamed internally. Here, I cleaned it up, Shuka said, handing him the cutlery. Izuku saw that Shuka had a handkerchief in his other hand. Thanks. Izuku wanted to grab the cutlery but Shuka pushed him back. He tried to grab the cutlery again, but Shuka raised his hand. "Is it so funny to make fun of me?" said Izuku, who was crying comically while seeing Shuka's smile. Shuka was talking, but at that moment Momo arrived. "Shuka. Let's eat together," said Momo happily as she sat next to the bicolor. Izuku stood up, looked around, but a voice called him. "Hey Midobro, let's eat together," said Kirishima, grabbing Izuku by the shoulder. "Ah? Okay," said the one who was going to go, "but why your cutlery, Midoriya?" Shuka said, showing Izuku's fork. "Don't worry, I have some new Midobro here," said Kirishima, showing off some new disposable cutlery. Izuku was about to say goodbye, but Kirishima quickly pulled him towards a table. Shuka squeezed the cutlery like this, melting it with his fiery edge. Momo just smiled with happiness knowing that she was going to eat with Shuka. But their happiness didn't last long as Shuka threw his food into the trash can and left. "I don't want any fights on the trip, grab a seat and stay calm, I'll be watching you," said Aizawa as he got on a bus. The students went up one by one, some sat with acquaintances and others did not. The women sat in pairs. Momo wanted to take advantage of that and wanted to call Shuka. But Shuka grabbed Izuku and sat him on a seat next to him. "Midoriya," Momo screamed internally as she clenched her hand in rage. The road to USJ was long. Momo kept looking at Shuka. Izuku was falling asleep, so his head was going somewhere else. Momo was waiting for Izuku to fall. But Shuka moved Izuku's head in her direction, causing him to fall asleep on her shoulder and making Momo uncomfortable. The students got off the bus, meeting heroine 13. Uraka was the most excited because 13 was her favorite hero. "You can come in for your rescue practices." -13 opened the door and several were surprised at how big the USJ was. "UA is incredible," Sara said with a smile. "You're right, look, they even have fake villains," said Kirishima Felice. "They're not fake villains, they're villains," said Aizawa, who was preparing with 13. Aizawa started fighting some villains while 13 protected the students. From one of the portals a boy would come out with hands and arms. The boy would give a speech about who they were, raising doubts in Aizawa. But in a moment of carelessness of 13, the villain of the portals, known as Kurogiri, hurt 13, thus sending the students to different places. Some were sent to mountainous areas, others to lakes, and others to fake cities. Izuku was somewhat beaten. He had fought with some villains while buying time for his companions to escape. But his heroism led him to face various blows from some villains who gradually became a minority until only one remained. That villain hit and cut Izuku almost all over his body, quirk attacks that left marks on Izuku's skin. The villain was going to use his quirk to kill Izuku, but he would be sent flying into the wall by a fire attack. "Who the hell was it?" the villain shouted angrily. "I." That's what Shuka said as he appeared in front of Izuku. "I'm going to kill you, brat," the villain shouted as the fire on his clothes went out. Shuka turned to see Izuku, where upon seeing him he had several cuts and marks on his body. She felt a strong pain in her chest where she angrily looked at the villain. "You're going to regret having hurt my Izuku," was what Shuka said while pointing at the villain. "Izuku. Izuku, wake up," was the last thing Shuka said before slapping the green-haired boy. Due to the strong blow, Izuku woke up alarmed where he would try to stop but fell down due to the damage to his body. "AHG. Where am I?" this man asked himself in pain. You're in the infirmary," Shuka said very nervously. Oh, thanks Todoroki-san, but what are you doing here?" Izuku asked somewhat doubtfully. Faced with that question, Shuka didn't know what to answer because Izuku's question was reasonable. Recovery asked me to watch you for a while to see if you woke up or felt unwell while she was gone," said Shuka while drinking a glass of water. "Oh, then I really appreciate you staying and I'm sorry," Izuku said somewhat embarrassed. "Huh? Why are you apologizing?" Shuka asked in surprise. "Maybe you had something to do and you didn't go because you stayed to watch me. I must have been a nuisance." Izuku's voice was already somewhat brittle, something that alerted and caught Shuka's attention. Wait, no. You weren't a bother at all." Scared Shuka would speak quickly. Thank goodness." The atmosphere in the infirmary had become uncomfortable for the two, Izuku because he didn't know what to talk about and Shuka because he didn't know why Izuku has a somewhat childish attitude. "Something is not clear to me," were Shuka's thoughts. Where they would be interrupted by the sound of the door. "Oh, you're awake, what are you doing here, girl? Didn't I tell you to leave?" was what Recovery said when she saw Shuka. Izuku was confused while Shuka was nervous. I just came to see how he was, I couldn't leave him alone, I mean, Shuka said, shrugging his shoulders. I say, go away now. Recovery girl shouted as she tried to hit Shuka with her staff. Something that she didn't achieve since Shuka ran away, Izuku just laughed from his bed, something that caught the old woman's attention. Your girlfriend is very airheaded. Closing the door, Recovery would look for a chair. Huh? And girlfriend? You're wrong, she's just a classmate and I don't even know her. Izuku said the last thing in an embarrassed way. Yes, whatever you say, kid. Was the last thing Recovery said before sitting down on the chair he was looking for. Shuka was walking back and forth without stopping, all while some of the people in the classroom were watching her. What do you think he's doing, Mineta? Was Kaminari's question. I don't know, what do you think he's doing, Sero? Mineta asked the ribbon boy. Nothing, I don't know. Those three were sitting in the cafeteria while watching the bicolor. If you keep looking at her, I'll tear your eyes out, said Momo, who had a pair of metal pliers in her hands. Something that scared the perverted trio and made them run. Momo would only approach where Shuka was. Shuka, are you okay? The brunette asked the bicolor. If not, I'll say yes, Shuka said as he continued to think. But tell me, just friends from years ago, can you tell me what's wrong with you? Momo didn't finish because she received an answer. No. Shuka would continue walking in circles in a blunt manner, something that left Momo perplexed because sometimes Shuka would respond seriously but never so bluntly. Oh okay, I won't bother you anymore, was what Momo said as she left. This must all be because of you, damn Midoriya. Momo would just turn to look at Shuka, where she would see her running somewhere. With his gaze he would follow her and see how Shuka was running to where Izuku was with crutches. She would just turn around and continue on her way at a quick pace. It was a new day. Izuku's appearance in the classroom surprised everyone since he was now wearing crutches. As Izuku sat down, Shuka would sit next to him. To Todoroki. Didn't Mineta sit in that place? Izuku asked, surprised. Ah, this one yes, but he doesn't like this place and he wanted to change it and well, he's my partner, so I changed him, right Mineta? Shuka asked turning to look at the haired man. Why yes, comrades, good comrades he said, trembling. Momo was uncomfortable having Mineta by her side but this was totally different. He was different with Izuku. Since Shuka was writing the class for him. Edo, I can write Todoroki said Izuku trying to grab the pencil. But when he was going to grab it, Shuka raised his hand. No, Recovery said that you need to rest and that you shouldn't force your body to do certain things, just calm down. I'm almost done, said Shuka, who continued writing in the freckled boy's notebook. At recess everything was full, where everyone tried to find a spot. Especially Izuku who wanted some space because of his disability. My brother. Here. Kirishima didn't finish speaking because Shuka appeared right in front of him with a gloomy look. Were you saying something, Kirishima? Without knowing anything, Izuku would ask. And no, I got confused haha. Kirishima would turn around to say nothing more. Everything is full, I won't be able to sit down, Izuku sighed dejectedly. We can eat on the terrace, I don't think they'll bother us there, said Shuka, who had a tray. Really? Let's go. With great enthusiasm, Izuku began to advance in a somewhat fast manner. Shuka would only give a light laugh at Izuku's attitude, but then he would run away remembering how Izuku was running. Wait here for me, I'll bring up our food and then I'll come back to help you up, said Shuka, who had the two trays. I can go up. I think, said this doubter. If you can do it, but if not stay here without saying anything. Shuka would run up. Izuku was undecided, he didn't know whether to go up or not. But heeding or ignoring Shuka's words, he was walking up the stairs. He climbed slowly, but when he reached the bend in the stairs, a person wearing a mask would come out and push him. Ah! A loud bang was heard all the way down the stairs, where instantly some crazy footsteps were heard coming down the stairs. Shuka had jumped down, where he would see the person in front of an Izuku lying on the ground. The person ran away. Shuka was going to go after him but, a hand stopped her. Todoroki. Izuku said in a painful manner. Izuku. Was the only thing Todoroki said before kneeling down and touching the freckled boy. He no longer cared about the person who was there a few moments ago, what mattered to him now was whether Izuku was okay. Something that fortunately for Izuku did work out in his favor, since nothing was broken, he only received a strong blow. Shuka was still hesitant. She didn't understand why Izuku didn't remember her. She was so worried that she stood looking at the mirror, thinking and seeing how much she had changed for Izuku to not remember her. Nothing, I didn't change at all, except for my height, but I'm still the same Shuka with red and white hair, she said while posing in front of the mirror. Without doing anything else, Shuka would leave for UA. At UA, Shuka was able to observe how Izuku got out of a car. A green-haired lady said goodbye to Izuku by giving him a kiss on the forehead. Who could it be? Shuka wondered. Obviously she was worried about who the woman was who gave her Izuku a kiss on the forehead. So now she had to solve two doubts, why Izuku doesn't remember her and who the lady is. Still on crutches, Izuku was walking through UA, until he tripped over someone and fell. TCH. On the ground again, Izuku said as he looked up. His eyes met with a boy who was looking at him with arrogance. Classroom 1A has a handicapped hero. A hero like that is useless, he is completely useless, ha ha ha, me. The great Monoma should be there and not you, said the one known as Monoma while continuing to laugh. Can you help me? Izuku asked, still lying on the ground. No, what are these things? Well, it doesn't matter, even though they look elegant, Monoma said sarcastically. If you like it so much, I can get you one right now, said Shuka, arriving on the scene. Monoma turned around and could see Shuka staring at him with pure anger. Wow, Endeavor's daughter, hey, how is my father-in-law? Ha ha. At Monoma's words, he received a strong blow to the face. Such a blow threw him to the ground and made his nose bleed profusely. Ah! Damn you crazy woman. My suit, my beautiful suit. Help! Monoma cried. Let's go, Izuku. Without wasting any more time, Shuka picked up Izuku and ran away. Recess began. Izuku arrived at a table by seat, but Monoma appeared again and sat down. What a shame, I already sat down, he said while giving a little laugh. But, someone would touch Monoma's shoulder, causing him to turn around and see heterochromatic eyes head on. Shuka gestured for Monoma to leave, but he refused. So Shuka raised his fist, causing Monoma to leave in fear. Sit down, Izuku, Shuka said, pointing to the free seat. Ah, but you? Won't you eat? Izuku asked, looking at Shuka. You're the one with a crutch, you should sit. Wait. What am I saying? I must take advantage of this moment, Shuka said to himself in his thoughts. Izuku was going to sit down, but he was pushed aside and Shuka sat there. I'll look for another place. Izuku was going to leave. But he was pulled and sat on Shuka's lap, causing him to blush. This scene caught the attention of most of those present in the cafeteria, especially those in room 1A and a Momo who was clenching her cutlery while having a twitch in her eye. To Todoroki, what are you doing? Izuku asked, very nervous and embarrassed. Calm down, it doesn't bother me, Shuka said as he placed Izuku on his legs. Izuku couldn't say anything else and sat down, something that made Shuka internally happy, but he had to calm down. Finishing classes. Izuku was walking through the hallways, where he would be pulled into a room. Ah! Don't hurt me. I only have enough for my train ticket. Izuku shouted, covering his face. Hey! Calm down, Shonen, it's me, said All Might, trying to calm Izuku down. All Might, what happened? Izuku asked his mentor. Sit down, I want to talk to you, said All Might, placing a tea on the table. Izuku sat down and listened attentively to his teacher. How is your one for all training going? Are you following the instructions I gave you? All Might asked while drinking his tea. I'm slowly getting the hang of it, but I couldn't train these days because of my condition. I think I'll be able to do it tomorrow, Izuku said, somewhat enthusiastically. That villain cut your muscles, so it's normal that it takes you a while to recover with the recovery treatment, All Might said, somewhat worried. Yes, if it weren't for Todoroki I might not have told her that day, Izuku said while drinking his tea. Ah yes, speaking of which. What do you have with Endeavor's daughter? All Might asked directly. At that, Izuku choked on his tea and looked at All Might. Do I have anything? And nothing, we're just friends, Izuku said as he dried himself. If this is how they start. I hope you recover and well, that's all, Shonen, you can leave, said All Might, standing up from his seat. Thanks, All Might, Izuku said as he grabbed his crutch and left. Izuku was walking through the hallways, where he would see various places such as the support center and the cafeteria. He didn't know what else to see since he couldn't climb the stairs without someone's support. Unable to do anything else, Izuku would leave the UA, where upon crossing the door someone would corner him against the wall. Ah. Don't hit me. Izuku said while covering himself. Izuku. That voice was recognized by Izuku. Todoroki, did something happen? Izuku asked nervously. Tell me, Izuku, who am I? Shuka asked somewhat uncomfortable. Ah? You're Todoroki, right? Izuku said without understanding much. No. Tell me, what's my name? My full name, Shuka said, somewhat annoyed. Why, you're Todoroki, I don't know what you mean, Izuku said in a scared way. No. Don't you remember who I am? Don't you recognize me, Izuku? Shuka asked with a sad look. I'm sorry, but I've never seen you, just recently in the classroom. I'm really sorry. Without knowing what was happening, Izuku was crying. Something that alerted Shuka and made her feel very bad. I'm sorry. No, I shouldn't have done this, I'm sorry, Izuku. Now Shuka was the worried one. What she wanted to do was not hurt Izuku, but she achieved the opposite. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, said Shuka, hugging Izuku. This corresponded to the hug, where he dropped his crutches because sleep won over him. He fell asleep. I just want to know why you don't remember me, Izuku, Shuka said, caressing Izuku's hair. I can tell you why he doesn't remember you. Shuka, Todoroki. That voice caught Shuka's attention, who turned around and could see the same green-haired woman. Mrs. Inko, Shuka said as he looked at the green-haired girl. I didn't think I'd see you again, daughter, many years have passed, said Inko, who was pouring tea into a cup. Me neither, it was a surprise to meet you and Izuku, said Shuka as she received the cup. Yes, you left from one day to the next. Izuku, I miss you a lot, said Inko, seeing her son sleeping on the furniture. But he doesn't remember me, Shuka said, looking at Izuku. Well, what happened to him? Did Bakugo do something to him? Shuka asked angrily. No. Everything happened when you left, said Inko, remembering. Flashback. Izuku was going to look for you, but your grandfather told him that you weren't there and that you weren't coming back. That didn't stop Izuku and he kept going to your house every day, but it was the same answer. Without knowing, one night he wanted to run away. He didn't know why he was planning something like that, but he wanted to get out through the window. Maybe he thought you would be there at night, although thinking about that I think made him lose his balance and so he fell out of the window. I didn't know about his fall until I heard the sound of the branches breaking. When I went out with a flashlight, I saw him lying on the ground. I was desperate because the grass was stained with blood, so with the help of the neighbor I was able to take him to the hospital. The doctor came out and told me that they had to do some tests on him. A few days later they told me that he had suffered a brain trauma, that the blow was so strong that they were able to detect temporary memory loss, a disease so to speak that can be cured little by little. End of flashback. That's why he is the way he is. It's not that he holds a grudge against you or anything, it's just that he doesn't remember you, even though many years have passed and he still hasn't recovered his memory. I think he'll stay like this forever. Inko didn't finish because of a knock on the table. Nonsense. He won't stay like this forever. If there is treatment so to speak, I will help him, said Shuka, clenching his fist. If you're going to help him then I won't forbid you from not seeing him, Inko said as she took a sip of her tea. I'll prepare something to eat, give me your cup. Inko picked up Shuka's cup and went to the kitchen, but just at that moment, Izuku would start to wake up. The sound of an Izuku getting up caught Shuka's attention and without waiting he went to sit next to the green-haired boy. Mommy? Izuku asked, feeling a hand on his face. Looking up he saw two colored hair and two eyes of different colors. To Todoroki. Did I do something wrong? He said with a trembling voice. No, nothing wrong, Izuku, you didn't do anything wrong, said Shuka, who still had his hand on the freckled boy's cheek. At that act, Izuku began to blush while Inko watched them from the kitchen. I think I already know who will have the pants in the relationship, said Inko while looking at Shuka. Shuka just kept looking at Izuku while grabbing his cheeks. Their afternoon was like this, somewhat uncomfortable for Izuku because he still wasn't used to Shuka's closeness and somewhat pleasant for Shuka because he had more time to be with Izuku. Tomorrow. UA. Classes. Teachers. Students. And frozen. Ice cream? Yes, ice cream, because that was what Izuku and Shuka ate while they were at UA. The ice cream is delicious, thanks Todoroki, you shouldn't have bothered, said Izuku, who saw the bicolor. It wasn't a bother, Yes. I wanted to invite you, Shuka said with a slight stutter. The blush began to appear on the bicolor's cheeks, something that caught Izuku's attention, who did not hesitate to put his hand on her neck. At the moment of touch, Shuka's cheeks suddenly turned red while smoke rose from the side of his red hair. Todoroki, are you okay? Izuku asked. Shuka didn't answer, because at that moment his hand caught fire. To Todoroki. Your quirk. Izuku said in a scared manner. Ah! Was the scream of Shuka, who ran out of the place. Izuku ran after Shuka. Will it work? Shuka wondered. At that point, someone would appear. What will work? Momo asked. Nothing. It was the only thing Shuka said to get up from his seat. But, Momo would stop him by grabbing his hand. Why are you ignoring me? Don't you consider me a friend anymore? Momo asked, looking at the bicolor. You know that you and I weren't friends because we wanted to be. I do. Momo shouted, interrupting Shuka. I was forced to become your friend, just so my old man and yours could communicate on business matters, Shuka said, shocking the brunette. That was the only thing Momo said because of the impression. You know it, I wanted to tell you, much more before you get your hopes up about me, forgive me if I'm cold with you, but it's because I'm not used to having friends after. Nothing, I'm running late, Shuka said as she left the place. Momo didn't know what to say, she couldn't move, the news was too much for her that she simply limited herself to crying. A cry that a girl heard with a rocker theme. Shuka was reading a book, but still couldn't find what he wanted. I search and search, but found nothing. Things were not going well for the bicolor because she could not find answers on how to help a person with temporary memory loss. Now what do? Not even Google can help me, I think. No, I don't think so, can it? Shuka asked herself. But I tilt my head from side to side, denying the idea of hitting Izuku with a metal rod to make him regain his memory. I will keep looking. All Might was chatting with Izuku, something that was usual at the end of classes. Shonen, I heard that you are dating Endeavor's daughter, All Might said while drinking his tea. Huh? Ah? Am me? But I don't know your daughter. Who is your daughter? Izuku asked in a confused way. Damn, what an idiot I am, the symbol of peace said to himself. Forget what I said, but I heard that you're dating Miss Todoroki. Arranging his words, All Might exclaimed. With Todoroki? Me? With Todoroki? Izuku wondered. Yes, you. How hidden you had it, boy, you surprised me, All Might said mockingly while giving slight winks. With Todoroki? With Todoroki? Izuku said again. Something that worried All Might. Shonen, are you okay? All Might asked fearfully. With his finger all over Izuku's forehead, but the slightest touch caused him to faint. Shonen. All Might shouted as he quickly went to pick up his disciple. Nursing, again. Recovery girl opened the door, seeing who the patient was, something that made her let out a sigh of tiredness. She ordered them to leave him on the stretcher and leave, because they knew that Izuku would not wake up for 2 hours. But as if it were a matter of fate, the door to the infirmary was suddenly opened, revealing a bicolor breathing heavily. Todoroki. Recovery girl said as she looked at the newcomer. I'm sorry, I called her. But I didn't think she would arrive so quickly, All Might said, looking at the call log. I came propelled by my quirk, so I came fast, Shuka said as she went to the stretcher. I'm afraid to tell you, you have to go so that Midoriya can rest, Recovery said while looking at the bicolor. Leave her here, since it's late they might come to pick up Midoriya. That way you won't have to come all the time, All Might said as he was leaving. For the first time you're right, if he wakes up you can take him, Recovery said as she looked at Shuka and then left. All Might and Recovery left the room, leaving Todoroki and Izuku alone. When the door closed, Todoroki ran to lock it and approached the stretcher where Izuku was. Now it's just you and me, little Izuku said Shuka as he approached the green-haired boy's face. She just slid her finger along Izuku's cheeks and then touched his lip. His gaze went to the green-haired boy's lip, where he then looked at his hair covering his closed eyes. So cute. So small. So adorable. So vulnerable, Shuka said, breathing near Izuku's neck. Shuka brought his lips closer to the green-haired boy's, but... No, calm down, Shuka. You are not a rapist, she said while slapping herself. I better set up my futon and lie down to rest for a while. With that last bit, Shuka began searching through his backpack. A few hours passed and Izuku was waking up, where he would slowly begin to open his eyes. Where am I? Izuku wondered sleepily. You finally woke up. I wanted to get out of this place, Shuka said. Hmm? Todoroki? Todoroki? Where are you? Izuku asked, confused. Here on the floor, Shuka said with some effort. Izuku just turned to his side and there was nothing. He turned to the other side and could see her, where a red color took over her cheeks. You found me. Shuka said with a slight smile. To Todoroki. You. He said, trying to look away. Oh? Where are you looking, Izuku? You're a naughty boy, Shuka said in a playful voice. Ah. No, no. He said very nervously. Do you want a hug? Shuka asked with her arms outstretched, revealing a bit of her cleavage. Me, Todoroki. He shouted, moving away little by little. Don't be ashamed, she said, grabbing Izuku's arm. Izuku tried to leave, but Shuka was stronger than him, in that the door to the infirmary would be opened. Letting recovery be seen, All Might already Inko. Hey! Shuka said, somewhat surprised. Leave them alone, they said. They said they are children, recovery exclaimed, looking at All Might. I failed in my calculations, All Might said. Kidney stones must be due to age. Recovery said angrily. All Might tried to calm recovery down while Inko took advantage of the two's distraction and motioned for Izuku and Todoroki to come out. The two did as they were told and quickly left, leaving the other two to argue. Thank you for taking care of Izuku, daughter. I thought something bad had happened to him. I was going to run until they told me it was just a simple feigning spell from a scare, said Inko while driving. Don't worry, Mrs. Inko, I came as quickly as possible when they called me, said Shuka while drinking a soft drink. I don't doubt it. Do you want to have dinner at my house or are they waiting for you? Inko asked. No, the old man went on a business trip and my sister went out with her friends, Shuka said while leaning on Izuku's shoulder, causing him to get scared. Oh, then it's a yes, said Inko, giving a slight smile as she looked in the rearview mirror. Inko bought takeout food. They arrived at their destination, set the table and sat down to eat. A warm atmosphere in the Midoriya family, that made Inko happy because Todoroki was trying hard with Izuku. The next day arrived. Momo looked sideways at Todoroki as she watched her talk to Izuku. She only thought about what he told her, and while she did so she clenched her fists. But a hand would touch his shoulder. Are you okay? A girl asked. Yeah, don't worry, Jiru said Momo, who saw the rocker girl. If you say so, said the one sitting next to him. Didn't Mineta sit here? Momo asked. Ah, he wanted to change places, you know. Friendship, Jiru said while playing with his jacks. This. Yes, friendship, Mineta whispered from afar while holding his arm. Aizawa walked in and everything went silent. It was heaven for the teacher. The frightened looks on some people's faces were noticeable, as the teacher was happy and they didn't know if that was something bad or good. Get ready, you have training. With those words, Aizawa calmly left the room. Everyone did not hesitate to listen and went for their hero suits. Common training. Izuku is always scared to use his quirk. Most people thought Aizawa was going to scold him, but that wasn't the case. Something that scared those present even more. I'm scared, Shuka said Izuku while grabbing the aforementioned girl's arm. Why? Is someone bothering you? Who is it? Do you want me to kill him? Shuka said, activating his quirk a little. No, it's just that. Aizawa-sensei is a little strange in that. It's scary, said Izuku, looking at his teacher in the distance. It shouldn't be anything important, don't worry, Shuka said, ruffling the green-haired boy's hair. But someone saw the two of them in the distance. Izuku arrived home, where his mother would be preparing dinner. He went to his room to undress, but the sound of the door knocking interrupted him. Did something happen, Mom? Izuku asked, watching his mother enter his room. Izuku, you have visitors, Inko said, somewhat worried. Me? Who could it be? Izuku asked. You know him. I'll go prepare dinner, Inko said as she left. Izuku was confused, but curiosity got the better of him, so he ran out the door as quickly as possible. When he left, he didn't see anyone but Deku. A voice said, making Izuku turn around slowly. Kachan? He asked, looking at the ashen-haired boy. Kachan. Izuku said, looking at the ashen-haired boy. Hi Deku, how are you? Bakugo asked somewhat nervously. I'm fine. And you? Izuku asked nervously about the presence of the explosive. The two didn't know what to ask, they didn't know what to talk about, since they both knew that They weren't that close. Do you want to come in? Izuku asked in the form of an invitation. Ah, not this one, I was just passing by and came to say hello, Bakugo said. Oh, I see. I won't bother you anymore, I'm leaving, Bakugo said as he started to walk towards the stairs. Yes, bye, Izuku said nervously. Coming down from the apartment. Bakugo was thinking about why he decided to go greet his old friend. Why? After so many years, why did I go to say hello? Bakugo wondered internally. I see. He said this while remembering his reason. TCH. I'm a fucking idiot, he said while clenching his fists. The other day it started and so did classes at UA. Izuku in his notebook doing some math problems, but this one was seen by a predatory gaze, and when looking at his side, he could see Shuka. What's wrong, Todoroki? Izuku asked, looking at the aforementioned. No, nothing, Shuka said as she continued to look at him. Izuku was unhappy with that answer, but he didn't want to give it any more thought. At that point, the door would open, revealing the teacher, thus giving the first classes on break. Izuku was still nervous, he felt Shuka's gaze on him. What did I do wrong? He asked himself, crying. At that, Izuku would open his eyes and they would notice a gray-haired boy who was passing by. Bakugo stopped, turned around and could see Izuku looking at him. This clash of gazes was seen by Shuka, who was squeezing his juice box. This Todoroki? Ah! Mina shouted when she saw the juice box explode. At the exit. Izuku was walking towards the exit, but someone would get in his way. You're Midoriya, right? A female voice asked. Ah? You? Are you Yaoyorozu? He asked, looking at the brunette. Yes, I just wanted to ask you a question, Midoriya, do you have a girlfriend? Yaoyorozu asked, looking at the green-haired boy. He hesitated to answer the question, but instantly turned red. And no, I can't, Izuku didn't know how to answer. Calm down, I'm just asking, or do you want one? I'm saying that you can be happy with one, Momo said playfully. This one, no. Oh well, I think it would be great to have one, he said while looking at the ground. I'll see if I can help you, anyway, I'm leaving now, Momo said as she was leaving. Izuku was thinking about what Momo said, but his thoughts were interrupted. Izuku. At that voice, the aforementioned raised his gaze and met heterochromatic eyes. To Todoroki. He said this while looking at the aforementioned. Is it true? Is it true that you would like to have a girlfriend? She asked, staring at the green-haired boy. Ah, I don't know, I guess to be happy I would like to be with someone, he would say with his gaze on the ground. At that revelation, Shuka felt a discomfort in her chest. She hated the idea that Izuku thought about having a girlfriend, and even more so, if she wasn't one. Without saying anything else, Shuka would lift Izuku's face with his hand. Izuku, please don't say that, don't think that your happiness depends on having a girlfriend, Shuka said while not looking away. But isn't that so? He asked. No.
And I will prove it to you because I will make you happy.
She shouted close to Izuku's face. Izuku just opened his eyes in shock, but they suddenly turned red. This Todoroki, I don't know you well and you're very close. Izuku wanted to move, but Shuka put his leg on the aforementioned's crotch, but at the same time put his hand in front of the wall. So that you can get to know me, I'll ask you out, Shuka said in a firm voice. And now? He asked, confused. Yes. Now, she said as she pulled Izuku by the hand. Someone seeing the situation from afar would go after them. Moments before. Why is he taking so long to come? Bakugo wondered as he looked at his cell phone. Standing, waiting while putting his back against one of the pavilion's columns, Bakugo would be watching as the students left. Waiting and waiting until no longer seeing any students, within a minute a green-haired boy would be walking towards the door, but would be stopped by a raven-haired girl. The president? Bakugo asked, looking at Yaoyorozu. He would see how Izuku talked to her, and after a few minutes, see how Momo would leave. Her scream was silenced when she saw Todoroki's presence. Todoroki? Bakugo asked, watching the bicolor talking to Izuku. In that, he would see how Todoroki would put Izuku against the wall. At first, Bakugo had imagined that Todoroki was bullying Izuku, but seeing how the other continued talking to her, he decided to calm down. After a few minutes of watching them, he would see Shuka pulling Izuku by the hand. Without doing anything else, this one would start following them. Current time. Shuka, what are we going to do? Izuku asked while looking at the aforementioned. What do you like to do? Do you want to eat? I mean, should I treat you to lunch? Go to the movies? To the amusement park? Shuka asked somewhat excitedly. Ah? I don't know, I hadn't even thought about going on a date today, he said somewhat embarrassed. Don't worry, we just got out of school so. Do you want to go to the movies? Shuka asked, looking at the green-haired boy. Sounds good to me, he said without anything else to say. The two took a taxi and headed to the nearest cinema, all of this seen by a Bakugo who was also in a taxi behind them. Upon arrival, the two were queuing for tickets upon arrival and buying them. Izuku's stomach started to growl. Faced with that situation, Izuku only began to dissimulate while Shuka began to look at Izuku. Shit Shuka, you invite Izuku to the movies after leaving UA and you forget to invite him to eat, great Todoroki, she said internally annoyed. Are you okay Shuka? I notice you're a little upset, Izuku said as he slowly moved away from the aforementioned. No, I just didn't calculate something and it slipped my mind. Wait for me, she said as she took out her phone. Shuka. He's already gone, said the one who saw Shuka leaving the cinema. Izuku just decided to sit on one of the waiting tables while watching trailers for upcoming movies. Unaware that in some furniture further back, Bakugo was sitting watching him. After a while, Shuka would re-enter the cinema where she would go to Izuku, who would quickly get up upon seeing her. Shuka, where were you? The movie starts in a few minutes, he said loudly so Bakugo could hear him. Shit, I forgot to buy my ticket, Bakugo said as he ran towards the cash register. Shuka had put a bag in his backpack, confusing Izuku but he wouldn't ask. Upon entering, Izuku and Shuka sat together but behind them, Bakugo sat. Hey you, nerd with glasses, Bakugo said to someone next to him. Me? The person said. Yes, you, I want you to sit behind those two you see there pointing to Shuka and Izuku, Bakugo would speak. But why don't you go? Asked the boy. Are you stupid? I'm on an undercover mission, if I get discovered it would be a failure. Please, young promise, do it, and the country will thank you, said Bakugo showing a fake ID. At Bakugo's words, the boy turned out to be a spy fan and excitedly accepted. What a nerd, said Bakugo watching the boy go after Shuka and Izuku. Momo had arrived at the cinema accompanied by Jiru. The two had chosen the back of the room so they could see the movie better. Momo would be drinking her soda, where she would see some familiar heads and start choking. Yaoyorozu, are you okay? Jiru asked. Yes, I think I am, said Momo looking at Shuka and Izuku. Here, clean yourself up, Jiru said worriedly as she gave him a tissue. Thank you. In a cold way, Yaoyorozu would thank her, generating a slight sadness in the girl Jax. The mission is going well, Bakugo said while drinking his soda. He would instinctively turn around and see his class president, spitting out his soda. What is she doing here? He asked, looking at Yaoyorozu. Shit, I have a problem, the mission is in danger. At that point, a man grabbed him by the shirt. You damn imbecile, you spit in the back of my neck and on top of that you stained my white shirt, said the angry man. And a new one begins, Bakugo said, looking at the man. What's going on back there? Izuku asked. I don't know, don't pay attention Izuku, keep watching the movie, Shuka said while passing the court to Izuku. Kachan? Izuku asked as he watched some police officers take the aforementioned away. Do you know him? If so, you should stay away from him, Shuka said from beside Izuku. Huh? Why? He asked, surprised. Because he's a bad influence on you, Shuka said as she watched Bakugo growling at a police officer. I don't think so, Kachan was always good to me. Sometimes, but he's not a bad person, he just has a bad temper, said Izuku, seeing the bright side of the situation. At that, Shuka couldn't say anything else, only let out a sigh. If you say so. True, do you want to go eat? She asked while looking at the green-haired boy. Next to them, Momo and Jiru were eavesdropping. Damn Midoriya! Shuka never invited me to eat! Said Momo angrily and jealously. Calm down Yaoyorozu, you're going to break my jack, Jiru said as she began to sob. I would accept, but my mom sent me a message saying that she already made dinner. Izuku would be seeing how Shuka had become a little discouraged. But if you want you can go eat, my mom doesn't mind you going, in fact she likes it. At that request, Shuka opened his eyes. Does my mother-in-law like me? She asked out loud. Hey? I mean, does your mother like me? Shuka asked quickly. Yes, he likes you going, Izuku said somewhat nervously. Let's say no more, let's go. Shuka said as he pulled Izuku towards the exit of the cinema. Momo and Jiro would be dating in the same way. Jiro was going to take a taxi, she was going to ask Momo to go together, but a limousine would park and a man would get out. Miss Yaoyorozu, said a man who opened the door to the aforementioned. Jiro was perplexed by that, she would just keep her question to herself and walk to the bus stop to take a taxi. Momo was going to leave, but she would see the rocker. This. Jiro seeing the aforementioned Momo, he would say. Tell me. Turning to see Momo, Jiro would speak. Come on, I'll take you home, said Momo with a serious look. Don't worry, I'll take a taxi, Jiro said while making a gesture. Oh, okay. Momo would just talk to her driver, making him move forward. Jiro, seeing Momo leaving, would only limit herself to sighing and putting her hand on her chest. Yaoyorozu, I rejected your request because I didn't know if I could control myself. Being close to you makes my heart rate go up. No, you. I like you, Jiro said looking at the sky. The wind and the trees created a comfortable atmosphere, where the wind moved Jiru's hair and the trees moved and made sounds together as if it were a dance of leaves. She felt calm and comfortable. The short time she spent with Momo made her happy, even though Momo didn't look at her and treated her indifferently. Being by her side only satisfied her. Jiro would put a hand in her pocket and open her eyes suddenly. Shit. I don't have money, she said, thinking about how she would leave. But unfortunately for him, it started to rain. In a taxi, a green-haired boy would be sleeping on the shoulder of a two-tone girl. Shuka was shaking and sweating, she would take off her tie so she could breathe properly. Damn it, how did I end up in this situation? Shuka asked. Flashback. Before leaving the cinema, Izuku went to the bathroom. He would ask Shuka for some paper and she would give it to him, not knowing that she had given him something else. After a while Izuku would come out. You finally came out, Shuka said. Yeah, hey Shuka, these candies are really good, what brand are they? Izuku said as he looked at the jar. At that, Shuka would suddenly open her eyes and become nervous. Shit. End of flashback. Now, how do I tell Mrs. Inko to dope her son? She asked herself internally. Miss, we're here, said the taxi driver, who saw those present. Thank you, please help me, Shuka begged the taxi driver. Miss, I'm a taxi driver, not a good Samaritan, the taxi driver said nervously. Son of a bitch, okay, I'll pay you twice as much if you help me, Shuka would speak with an offer. Okay, where to? With the help of the taxi driver, Shuka had managed to get Izuku up to the door of his apartment. Shuka paid the taxi driver and he left counting the money. To confirm his theory, Shuka would open his wallet. Indeed, this is the old man's wallet, Shuka said happily. At that, the door opened revealing Inko with a towel on her head. Oh daughter, you are here where my dear Izu is. Inko did not finish because she saw her son lying on the ground. Shuka saw Inko and then saw Izuku. Ma'am, this is not what you think, Shuka said, hiding the bottle of narcotics. We'll talk inside, said Inko as she entered the apartment. Understood. Shuka would enter the apartment and close the door, but then she would come out again to bring Izuku in. Inko and Shuka were staring at each other. Shuka was nervous because Inko was standing next to her analyzing something in front of her. Very good, good. You're a little short, but good, said Inko while looking at the hands of the aforementioned. I hope there is no mistake, Shuka said in her mind while she had Inko's gaze on her hands. No cuts, incredible. Everything perfect, said Inko, impressed. So? I passed? Shuka asked while sweating little by little. Yep, the katsudon turned out well, congratulations daughter, you can be a great wife, Inko said while taking another spoonful of katsudon. At the word wife, Shuka had an explosion in his mind. Wife. 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 Without thinking any further, Shuka began to expel his quirk. From one half of his body he expelled fire and from the other he began to freeze. Daughter? You're okay, Og. Inko shouted as she saw Shuka expelling more fire. Izuku had woken up, he looked around and could see his All Might posters. I sighed with relief knowing that he was in his room, but in seconds he became discouraged thinking that going to the movies with Shuka was a dream. No way, I have to go to the UA, he said to change. Coming down from his room, He could see his mother cleaning the house while she mopped the living room. "Mom, did something happen?" asked the freckled boy when he saw his mother drying the floor. "Nothing, just that." "No, nothing," she said while remembering how the fire protection system was started. "Oh, well, do you happen to know Izuku didn't finish because he saw a sleeping Shuka on the couch?" He jumped straight ahead and saw Shuka and then his mother. She's there." Izuku fell silent so as not to wake her and immediately saw his mother. "Shh, let her sleep, she had a mental breakdown, poor thing." "She fell asleep, I think I forced the poor thing too much in the kitchen," said Inko looking sadly at Shuka. At that, Izuku saw Shuka sleeping with a goofy smile and a blush while mumbling. "Izuku, hee, husband, hee," she said in murmurs while blushing more. "This one, of course, cooks," said Izuku, scared. "Go and sit down, your food is on the table," Inko said as she finished cleaning. Izuku nodded and went to wash his hands before sitting at the table. Shuka woke up, the first thing he did was look around. "Huh? Izuku?" Without further ado, she fell asleep again. The hero classes would be going on normally, of course, without the absence of Shuka. Everything was calm for the green-haired boy. Just that. For his part, Jiru looked at the brunette with a smile as if she were a puppy. "Damn Midoriya," said Momo while biting her pencil. "He's biting my pencil. How exciting," Jiru shouted internally. At that, the door of the classroom would be open revealing Shuka. "Shuka?" Momo said excitedly. "Shuka?" Jiru said kindly. "To Todoroki." Izuku screamed. "Silence, Midoriya." Aizawa screamed. "Good afternoon, Master Aizawa, may I come in?" Shuka asked in his typical dry tone. Maybe they don't pay me enough. Come on, Todoroki," Aizawa said tiredly. "Thank you," Shuka said as his gaze went to a green-haired boy. "Oh no, Izuku said in his mind in a scared way. Yes, Shuka said in her mind while walking towards Izuku. When he got to Izuku's place, he saw Mineta. He made a long sign and immediately the dwarf ran away. At this, many classmates were whispering about whether Shuka was a bully. During recess time, Izuku was walking while being watched by the other students. The reason? Well, Shuka was behind him while carrying 2 trays of food. Everyone thought that Izuku was a rich bully who had the bicolor as a bodyguard. "Swallow me, Earth," Izuku said in his thoughts while lowering his head. "It's obvious that we look like a cute couple, that's why they're staring at us, envious," Shuka said in her thoughts while raising her head in triumph. Arriving at a bench for 2, it was immediately filled by Monoma, who threw his backpack to the side. "Oops, sorry, but it seems this place is full." Ha with a giggle at the end. Monkey was trying his luck. Yeah, sorry, we're going somewhere else, right Todoroki?" "Todoroki?" Izuku asked the bicolor. But at that, Izuku saw how Shuka grew bigger. Izuku managed to see Shuka, her classic 1.80 height. He saw her measuring almost 1.95 and that scared him a lot. He was afraid, not for his life, but for Monona's. He didn't want to imagine what Shuka would do to him. Show Shuka please, they're watching us," said Izuku trying to calm the bicolor. "That's perfect," Shuka said as he placed the trays on the table Monoma was occupying. This one, if you touch me, I'll report you, my family has money," Monoma said in a frightened tone. "That doesn't matter to me." After finishing saying that, Shuka threw a big punch at Monoma's face that sent him flying off the bench and ending up on another one. "Shuka, what did you do?" Izuku asked scared. "Huh? I respected our pride," she said calmly. "No. Not that," Izuku shouted as he ran towards Monoma. "The idiot gets worried and I get yelled at," Shuka said as she watched Izuku run. Izuku arrived at Monoma's house to see his condition. He asked the aforementioned person but received no response. Monoma had been left unconscious with his backpack hanging from his hand. "He's unconscious, take him to the infirmary," said Izuku, who saw Class B in front of him. Everyone in the cafeteria looked at Shuka, some murmuring about her attitude. And Class 1A did too. "I told you she was a bully," he said in serious whispers. "I didn't think it was real," Lita also responded in a whisper. The class began to murmur more and more, the other classrooms did the same. Shuka, she felt surrounded by gazes. Something that reminded him of his father's family, his grandmother, his father's friends and above all, some top heroes. She didn't know how to feel. She had hit someone weaker than her, but she didn't know how to respond. Since she was a child, her father always told her that the best way out was violence and being the strongest. In the infirmary, Izuku was coming out to see Monoma's state. Shuka had just arrived at the infirmary while holding a slip from the management. She saw Izuku, he saw her. Shuka wanted to say something, but instantly Izuku turned his gaze, making the bicolor swallow her words. Shuka's voice was soft and weak for the moment. She didn't want to see Izuku angry with her, it hurt her a lot. Just thinking that he would stop talking to her made her heart beat faster and her anxiety start to come out. The thought that she would no longer be able to get close to Izuku and help him recover his memory was slowly starting to kill her. "You're Midoriya, right?" a female voice asked. That voice caught Shuka's attention and he could see a girl with orange hair. "Ah, yes, you are Kendo, right? You are the president of Class 1B," said Izuku looking at the orange-haired girl. "Ha, it's me, I wanted to know the status of my partner and above all to know what happened," Kendo said as he approached Izuku. Izuku was thinking about what to do, tell the truth or lie shamelessly. He wasn't sure what to do, since many people had seen Shuka give Monoma a tremendous blow. "It was an argument that ended in a short fight," Izuku said, trying to hide the reality. "Oh really?" Kendo asked. "Yes, your partner Monoma made a provocation, something that my partner didn't like. The two had an argument and then a little fight that my partner ended up winning," said Izuku into Kendo's eyes. Kendo stared at Izuku, trying to see if he would look away or not, then finally let out a sigh. "I understand, Monoma is that quarrelsome and stupid. I can't blame your partner for giving him a good hit," she said while looking at her partner on the stretcher. Yeah ha, that's how we dumb people are," Izuku said with a light laugh. "Are we? Ha 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 ha," Kendo laughed at Izuku's stuttering. Ha ha ha. Izuku and Kendo would be laughing like they were good friends. While Shuka just stood there watching. "What if he's not happy with me? Am I really the best for him?" Shuka asked. She lowered her gaze and looked at her hands. "What if I hurt him?" No, she said, shaking her head. She started to have thoughts where she hurt Izuku, where Izuku cried because of her. "Sniff, I hate you, Todoroki." That was what Izuku said in Zalasos. In Shuka's thoughts. "I don't want to be like my father, no, I don't want to," said Shuka while looking at his hands and starting to cry. Without thinking any further, she ran out of the place. Izuku stopped watching Kendo to look in the direction Todoroki was going. Classes had started again, everyone was in the classroom except Todoroki. 20 minutes passed and the bicolor did not appear. Mineta took advantage of the moment and sat in the seat that belonged to Todoroki. "Hey Midoriya, it's strange that Todoroki isn't coming, huh?" the dwarf asked the green-haired boy. "Yes, it's strange." He said this as he began to look at all the seats. Momo was worried that her crush friend didn't show up. "I was impatiently pulling on Jiru's jacks." "My jacks?" the rock girl moaned. Class ended and there was no sign of Shuka. Izuku would be worried because he didn't have her behind him as he was already getting used to at the exit. So he entered the UA again to look for her in the hallways. Bathrooms. Gym. Testing grounds. Cafe. Athletics track. Library. Living rooms. Nursing. Nothing, I couldn't find her. "Todoroki, where are you?" Izuku said worriedly. This one was already very late, he had stayed until the time that the UA allowed him to stay. Without further ado, he had to leave. "I walked through the streets and every block I passed." He looked back to see if Shuka was there, but nothing. He spent this time every block on the way home, even on the train. But with the same result. He didn't know if he was already used to having her behind him or not, but he didn't feel comfortable not seeing her. "Todoroki." It was the only thing Izuku said to fall asleep on the train. When he got home, he was greeted with a plate of katsudon on his table along with a note. "A note from my mother?" he asked, looking at the note. "Dear Izuku, I'm going to stay late at work. I reheated your katsudon. Yes, I heated it, I didn't do it, Shuka did, it came out very well, thank him for me. Don't wait for me. Mother." Seeing the note, he could only start to feel very bad. He saw the katsudon and thought about how he yelled at Shuka in the cafeteria and how he ignored her in the infirmary. "Todoroki, I'm sorry," he said, still holding the note in his hands. The next day. This one went to UA late. It was late at the time that class was already starting, He was hoping to enter and see Shuka in the same seat he liked to be in, next to him. But when he entered, all he saw was Minata's seat, a scolding from the teacher and a murderous look from Momo. He just sighed and went to his seat. "It's going to be a long day," he said tiredly as he sat down. "Excuse me, teacher, but what about your classmate Todoroki?" Yaoyorozu asked. "Oh, I forgot. Your partner is suspended for a week for hitting a classmate," said Aizawa, surprising everyone. "It can't be, it's all because of you, damn Midoriya," Momo said in her thoughts while looking murderously at Izuku. Izuku just turned pale and looked away. Minato looked at Momo and then at Izuku, several times until he got close to the green-haired man's ear and said, "She's looking at you, damn it, I think the president wants to fuck you," Minato said in a perverted way. But at that, he would receive a lick from Tsuyu, thus generating some momentary laughter that was silenced by Aizawa. But Izuku was the only one who wasn't laughing, his gaze was on the window as he thought. "Todoroki, I'm sorry," he said in his thoughts. At the end of classes, Izuku was the first to run away, neither Aizawa nor anyone else could stop him. "I didn't take a taxi so as not to waste time and also because I didn't have any money." Using a little bit of one for all, he managed to get to Shuka's house. "I rang the bell and a girl with white hair and red highlights opened the door." "Yes? Who are you looking for?" the girl asked kindly. Hello, I'm Midoriya Izuku, I'm Todoroki's classmate. I came to give you today's classes," he said with clear nervousness. "Comrade? That's right, a friend?" the girl asked. "This one, yes," he said nervously. At that, the girl stopped reacting and let out a little scream. "Shuka has a friend," the girl shouted. "Hey?" It was the only thing Izuku said to be pulled by the girl. Come in, come in, come in." With that said, the girl began to lead Izuku to Shuka's room. "Just knock on the door, I'll prepare some snacks for you," said the girl, running away happily. That seemed strange to Izuku, but his gaze would go to the door in front of him. "Do not disturb," Izuku said as he looked at the sign on the door. "If you say do not disturb, it is do not disturb, another day better come." Izuku didn't finish because the door opened and a hand pulled him inside, only to close again. "What are you doing here?" Shuka asked as she looked at Izuku. Izuku was against the door as he looked at Shuka's hand at his side. "This, to Todoroki, this one didn't finish because he saw Shuka's body. She was wearing sportswear, thus showing off her toned body. Something that made Izuku very nervous. "See, can you put something on?" the green-haired man asked. "No." It was Shuka's blunt response as she got closer to Izuku. "Tell me, what are you doing here?" the bicolor asked again. I came to see how you were," Izuku said while lowering his gaze a little. "Do you care about me?" Shuka asked, staring at the green-haired boy. Yes, I do, you haven't appeared since you left the infirmary," Izuku said somewhat discouraged. "Look at me," Shuka said, lifting Izuku's chin. Shuka's crazy senses were starting to get out of control. "Kiss him. Kiss him. Kiss him. Kiss him," was what Shuka heard in her head. His mind was starting to cloud over, but out of nowhere. "No," was what she said to get closer to Izuku. For his part, the green hair closed his eyes, but a hug made him open them. "Thank you for worrying about me," Shuka said while hugging the green-haired boy tightly. "Calm down. I missed you too," Izuku said while returning the hug. Shuka was starting to cry as he clung even tighter to the green-haired boy. He could only hear Shuka's moaning and didn't hesitate to feel even worse. "Todoroki, I'm sorry." He said this while also clinging to the bicolor. Shuka had a lot to think about, the hug, the darkness of the room and the light under the door on the other side. It was the only thing that could be observed at the moment. In that, Todoroki, I can't breathe in a quick sentence, Izuku lost his breath. "I'm sorry." In a quick movement Shuka released Izuku, allowing him to breathe quickly. He became more alert when he started coughing. "I'm sorry. I couldn't measure my strength, only when I'm with you." Shut up, Shuka, she said to herself internally. "I know, just." For a while he said as he began to breathe deeply. "Control yourself, Shuka, you almost killed him, but the fact that he and I are alone, in the dark and in my room, makes me think." Focus, Shuka, just breathe and calm down," she said as she began to pant and close her eyes. Todoroki, do you have water?" Izuku asked, still breathing. Yes, I'll bring you here. Without saying another word, she went out for a glass of water, gave it to the freckled man, and went into the bathroom. Alone, he'll only be here for a while and then he'll leave, even though I don't want him to go. Ah. Why are you like this, Izuku? No, I can, I'm a future heroine, I can deal with his presence. Shuka encouraged himself and headed for the door to leave the bathroom. Todoroki, do you have a towel? Izuku asked. Ah, yes, here. At that, Shuka fumbled with the towel and let it fall to the floor. I got wet, how clumsy I am, Izuku said while licking his fingers. That's what Shuka thought, and blood started coming out of his nose. At that, without a second's hesitation, Shuka had put his arm on the wall, cornering Izuku. Do you want me to pass you the towel? Because I think you're asking me to, she said as she put her hands on Izuku's shirt. It was just a little water, he said while starting to turn red. Who would have thought, you can go from being fresh as a lettuce to being red as a tomato, said Shuka while touching Izuku's freckles. The caress of Shuka's hands were delicate, a clear affirmation to that was the image of comfort on Izuku's face. Shuka placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder, tracing lightly before pulling away. Until. Hey! Take your hand out, said Izuku, jumping back. Sorry, I got excited, Shuka said as she started putting on a sweatshirt. That's a sensitive area. My mom says I should always be careful, said Izuku as he adjusted his shirt. Marriage. In a whisper, Shuka exclaimed as that word said by the freckled boy brought back memories. That word meant terror and obligation, since it set an example for his mother. A poor woman who was forced to marry her father's trash. Marriage. In another whisper, Shuka just clenched her fists. She couldn't imagine living with Izuku the same way her parents live. So if I wanted to think about the future, I would have to start changing the meaning of that word. Izuku, do you want to go out to dinner? Shuka asked unexpectedly. Hey? Suddenly, Shuka's invitation impressed Izuku, but that was no impediment. Since they were already at a food stand. How did I get here? Izuku wondered in his mind. Well, while we wait for lunch, tell me, what did you do in class? The bicolor asked while staring intently. Not much, the same as always, math and hero practices to improve quickly. For all this of a name of the League of Villains, are they the same as that time in the USJ? Asked the freckled one. It must be, I never paid attention to what they called themselves, Shuka said as he opened a bottle. Izuku was lost in his thoughts. He had been taken out of the sports festival because he could not control his power. With this, All Might's proposal for his teacher Gran Torino to train him was something that gave him motivation to achieve his goal of being a hero. Tell me, Izuku, are you going to enter the sports festival? Shuka said while serving the drink. Well, yes. I think he said the last thing in a low voice. That's great. So we can get to the battle round together. I can't wait for the festival. With excitement, Shuka began to drink her drink while Izuku held it in his hands. Izuku felt bad. He thought that lying to Shuka was not something he did or something his mother had taught him. But Shuka was thinking about training more, so he would have more opportunities to carry Izuku to the finish areas. Perfect, let's eat, Shuka said, making space on the table for the plates. Dinner went by normally, with several jokes from Shuka to Izuku, who turned red with embarrassment. I'm sorry, Todoroki, but I don't think I can go to the festival. It's not you, it's me, Izuku said to the mirror in his room. Izuku-san, you're late. Inko shouted. I'm coming, Mom. Izuku grabbed his backpack and went down to the living room. He said goodbye to his mother, and when he got out he saw a black car where All Might was inside in his thin form. All Might, sorry for the delay, Izuku said, making an apologetic gesture. Calm down, boy, I was also a sleepyhead at your age, All Might said while laughing and starting the car. At the UA. Shuka would be looking for Izuku. The festival was about to start. Where did you go, Izuku? Shuka asked as he walked through the hallways. In front of Shuka, Momo appeared with a smile. Hello, Shuka. With a wide smile, Momo greeted. Don't get in the way, Shuka said, pushing Momo aside. Her dark side of Momo came out and she could only watch Shuka leave. There is a culprit in this situation. Midoriya, she said, clenching her fist. The freckled one had already arrived at Gran Torino's house. The facade was not so striking, it had a funereal color. Very early for Halloween, I'd say, said Izuku, who entered with All Might. At that, Izuku turned around and saw All Might inside the car. All Might? Izuku asked, looking at his teacher. Well, Midoriya Shonen, I have to do some things. I'll leave you with a good teacher who I'm sure will treat you well, bye. He said as he started off at speed. Why do I feel abandoned? The area is very quiet, I better knock on the door before I get robbed. Izuku proceeded to knock on the door where he received no response. He knocked again and the door opened by itself. The green-haired man entered with fear and his sight found the living room, where there was an old man on the floor. Shock took over Izuku, where he didn't know what to do. His hero instinct told him to lift the old man, but his survival instinct told him not to touch him so as not to leave fingerprints. Don't be scared, Izuku, you're a hero, leave your fear aside. The green-haired man slowly approached Gran Torino. He had a branch in his hand where he kept his distance. When he touched him with said object, the old man didn't even flinch. Even more worried, he approached and was centimeters away from touching him. The old man stood up abruptly. Let me sleep, the old man shouted. Standing up angrily, the old man could only see a fainted Izuku on the ground. The afternoon passed and Izuku woke up and was in a room he didn't know. Then a voice alerted him. So you're the ninth, said Gran Torino, who was standing at the door drinking a cup of tea. Ah, yes, I am the ninth, Izuku would say with clear emotion. Gran Torino only looked at Izuku. His carefree and cheerful attitude caught his attention, but on the other hand, his nerves were what made him doubt whether he really had control of his power. Now that you've slept 7 hours, you should have energy to train. At Gran Torino's clarification, Izuku was scared. 6 hours? It can't be, I missed the sports festival. With clear concern, the green-haired man stood up quickly. Yes, kid, 6 hours of pure sleep, taking advantage of the fact that you are already awake. I will be able to observe how much you control of your quirk. With that said, Gran Torino left for Izuku, putting on his sneakers and going after him. A person would be training in a large room, where he would begin to roughly attack a punching bag. Miss, your father is waiting for you. A man in a suit interrupted the room, where he received no response, but then he left because he knew the girl had heard him. With 2 last big knocks, the girl finished her exercise. Izuku, why did you lie to me? Where are you? Shuka said, breathing heavily as she wiped away her sweat. In one area, in a room, a person with a fog head and another with a hand on his face, would be talking to Stain, the hero killer. So you want me to join your team? Ha! You have no conviction, asked Stain. Shigaraki was on the ground with a knife stuck in his shoulder and Kurogiri couldn't move because he was paralyzed. Stain was going to cut Shigaraki's neck, but the latter would grab the assassin's knife, thus making use of his quirk. Having conviction is a great thing that I don't have. If I had to choose something, I would choose All Might, because I just want to completely destroy this society that still insists on worshipping scum like him, said Shigaraki, who finished crushing the assassin's knife into dust. Stain would get angry at the comment about All Might, which distracted him a little, but that small moment was used by Shigaraki to attack. Stain's reflexes served to dodge Shigaraki's hand. I think our goals are completely opposite. However, we agree on destroying the present, said Stain, putting away his other knife. You better get out and die, after all I'm the kind of person you hate, Shigaraki said tiredly. I wanted to check your motives, since people always show their true selves before they die, but you are different, you have a twisted conviction and still, I could eliminate you after this is over, Stain said, provoking annoyance in Shigaraki. Kurogiri, take him away, I don't want a madman like him on the team. Good choice, now give me back Hasu, I have a lot of things to do, Stain said, licking his lips. Izuku continued practicing. Everything was seen by Gran Torino in the distance. Stop. At those words, Izuku stopped what he was doing and fixed his gaze on Gran Torino. If you keep using your same techniques and fighting against me, you won't advance, so go get your suit, we'll move on to phase 2. At Gran Torino's words, Izuku ran to put on his hero suit. After a few minutes, Izuku left the house with Gran Torino as they walked aimlessly. Where are we going? Izuku asked with his backpack. We're going to fight villains. By the way, why are you carrying your backpack? The old man asked. You never know what emergencies might occur, Izuku said happily as he looked at his roll of paper inside his backpack. At that, Gran Torino just sighed as he raised his hand to call a taxi. Izuku and Gran Torino were on the train, where an emergency would alert everyone. Dear passengers, please fasten your seatbelts in case of emergency. At this announcement, the wall of the train would break, generating a tremendous noise in the train. But what a preacher, Gran Torino said to be shaken. A Nomu? Sit down, kid, Gran Torino shouted as he lunged at the Nomu. The two got off the train where Izuku would grab his backpack and go after Gran Torino. A child in a suit? Who are you? Get out, this place is not for children, said Stain, who saw Lita on the floor. Blood-red scarf and knives all over your body, it's you, the hero killer, isn't it? Lita asked angrily. Be careful what you say, even a child like you could be my target. Stain would point his katana towards Lita. No matter what happens, I'm here, because you ended my brother's life as a hero, a good older brother. Remember my name, I'm Ingenium. Stain remembered that name and could only dedicate himself to observing Lita. Hasu, Lita should be here, how great. This way we can work together as heroes on patrol, but where could she be? Izuku wondered. In that. Lita. It was someone's scream that caught Izuku's attention. Where is Tenya? The hero asked as he put out the fire. He must be Lita's internship hero, but why isn't he with him? Lita wouldn't leave at such a tragic moment like this, Izuku said in his mind. Izuku would approach to ask, but would hear some words from the hero. Tenya, I hope you haven't gone looking for the hero killer, that would be crazy, said the hero who maintained his control in the water. Lita, Hasu and the hero killer? It can't be, Lita, what are you doing? Izuku said in his thoughts before running in search of Lita. Don't use your wear to fulfill your whims, if you are a hero, save that guy first, Stain said as he proceeded to lick Lita's blood. Lita couldn't move, she had been paralyzed due to the villain's gift. It doesn't matter, you will be a sacrifice for a better world. Stain was about to proceed to stab Lita with his katana, but his instincts made him look away. Where a flash would show a green-haired man with his fist raised while shouting. Smash! At that scream, Stain was thrown out by the blow. Smash, is that what it was called? Sorry All Might, Izuku thought, scared like any fan. At the noise, Lita would look up. Midoriya, this is none of your business, get out, Lita said, worried about his friend. Your friend came to help, if we fight I'll have to kill him, although of course, the weakest will die, said Stain with his katana in hand. This one is different from the USJ, a murderous look and no signs of hesitation. I will buy time until a professional hero comes, said this one who sent his location. Izuku thought of many plans. He wanted to do his escape technique, but he had two wounded heroes, a random one and his friend Lita. With nothing else to do, he only had to fight. He got closer to Stain, but Stain took out his knife and made a small cut. Yes. It turned out just as I planned. Now, let's attack. Izuku stopped thinking and fell paralyzed. What? When? How? Where? Oh, it's the blood, I'm paralyzed by the blood, he thought while trying to move. Shuko was running with his father towards the accident area and Hasu, but his cell phone would vibrate. Izuku. I scream with emotion. Brat, stop looking at your cell phone, said Endeavor. Izuku, did you send me your location? Does he want to meet in secret? No Izuku, not today, I'm not ready. Oh, is he in trouble? And why is he here in Hasu? Midoriya. Izuku, you have a lot to answer me, said she who was starting to run. Hey! Where are you going? Endeavor asked. Go to the alley on Echo Street, my boyfriend, my friend must be in trouble, shouted Shuka as she ran away. Endeavor was left very confused. Boyfriend? I'll have to investigate, said this guy who was with the other heroes to the emergency zone.